Hi, welcome to MC Youth. I am your host, Aaron, and this is my co-host, Sergio. Today, we'll be looking back at some local events that we were supposed to look at in the beginning of this year.
All right, so first up, we have the unveiling of a community mural in Jack Farrell Park in East Palo Alto. And this mural is actually 240 feet long, which is the longest mural in East Palo Alto, possibly the state or even the world. So let's check it out. Roll the tape.
We're very proud of MAP for the work that we've done, and we look forward to continuing to partner with the school district. Like Dr. Hernandez said, we actually have some really exciting stuff going on where we're helping to build out arts programming and arts education in the schools. So what started off as a small summertime mural project, the teen mural project, where founders, Sonia and Eugene Clark Herrera, with 14 youth and one small grant, worked on one wall. Now we have murals all over the city at all the different schools, and we look to really find ways to beautify the space a lot more, but also continue to have impact in the schools.
What do you think the community benefits from art like this?
I really enjoyed the whole entire benefit. I think that it benefits the fact that we're come together. We are able to see different organizations here come into one as a whole and basically show something as a mural that represents all of us, one small piece of each of us within the mural.
What was your favorite part about the mural?
The fact that you're able to see different sections of the mural and see different parts represent different things. I think that's my favorite part of the mural. Like, you can stand here and see something completely different if you walk a little bit further out, which is my best thing of the representation of the mural.
I would like to say thank you to all the people who helped get this work done. Some of you may think that it was a project that may have taken a few months, but in fact it took well over a year to do. So to the rest of the MAP staff, to Danny, to Fit Zones, to the police department, to everyone from City Hall, give yourselves a round of applause. This would not have been able to be done without your patience, diligence, hard work. Okay. Really quick, I would just want to run down some notes. This mural is very much a concept. The concept is based on reclaiming space. The idea of taking Jack Farrell Park from what it was to what it could be to what it can be in the future. Celebrate East Palo Alto. This mural represents EPA's vibrant community and is a statement of life and hope. The design features bright, intense colors juxtaposed with organic shapes and movements, and it symbolizes EPA's continuous growth, dynamic movements, and ultimately its diversity. The length of the wall is 227 feet, so I do believe it is the longest mural in East Palo Alto, maybe in the peninsula and beyond. But the length of the wall provides various perspectives from distinct vantage points within and surrounding the park. It's designed this way to engage viewers, to increase curiosity, increase interaction, so that when people come to the park, they want to explore a little bit more than just walking by. Each colorful flow moves across the wall with shifts to focus on the values and its forms. The design was influenced by the elegant natural flow of dripping mercury, quicksilver. And that is very symbolic to the community because it is a symbol of strength and fluidity. Okay? The larger burst of color emanates energy and force. Smaller splashes of hue inspire optimism. When we did our design charrettes, when we did our design workshops, the big themes that came about were the community wanted to be engaged, the community wanted to show optimism, they wanted to have a sense of place, that East Palo Alto is here and it's a force on the peninsula. So for me, and ultimately for us, this is a visual representation of our united voices. These united voices created a chorus, ultimately creating a song, and that song reclaimed this space.
Okay. Why did you choose this part of EPA for your mural?
We chose this part because this was a park that we believed had a lot of community in, and we knew that a lot of people would appreciate, in this area, our art piece by seeing how it made a difference in its actual vision of people's opinion of this park, because this park was really well known back in the day for people selling drugs, people getting killed, basically adding to East Palo Alto's bad reputation. So we wanted to really target a spot where it was really bad to change it into something nicer and more beautiful, more makes people want to come here and change that whole perspective of people's opinion of East Palo Alto and the areas in East Palo Alto.
What is the benefit of having art like this in the community?
The benefit, honestly, it makes your park look better. But at the same time, too, since I was one of the artists helping paint this mural while I was painting, I got a whole brand new perspective on community, because a lot of people I did not expect came up to me and came up to my partners as well, and told me that this mural was beautiful. So to me it was kind of like more of a life-changing experience, because it made me notice how well of a community East Palo Alto is, and this mural brought that. This mural made people come without asking and telling us hey man, you're doing a good thing, this is awesome, this is beautiful. And I thought man, if we put this here and it brings all these people together, just imagine if we do something bigger, and what's that gonna bring, So it's pretty cool. It was a pretty cool experience.
Wow, that was an awesome mural. And the cool thing about that mural is that from any angle from the park, even if you're 20 feet or 100 feet away from it, you can see something different. And that's what's so special about this mural. And up next, we have another thing that's super special, and the host is going to tell you more about that.
While we're on the subject of art, check out this local artist that is around East Palo Alto nearby. He was a college track student that goes to Menlo Atherton High School. For him, art is not just something that is a hobby. It's more like a motivation, an open door to his dreams.
Having lived in East Palo Alto for all of my life, I've always felt like the odd one out, and always felt isolated, and especially with my parents being so narrow-minded, I never really felt like myself. Then as time went by and high school drew near, I found myself drawing and sketching, and art was like a way for me to run away, but without really running away. So I used art as a way to lift myself up, to use it as a medium. Art gave me this more realistic view of who I was, and of how and what I can bring to my community. And so whenever I draw or paint, time is just non-existent really, and I just find everything to just be still. Everything feels great. Everything just feels so amazing, I would say. And so really, when I went to the new school, I really took a leap of faith in a way. I wasn't really sure if I was gonna make it or not. One of my friends really encouraged me to apply, and luckily I did end up winning a scholarship, and it was a scholarship of a lifetime really, because it was life-changing, and this summer offered me a new way of seeing art, and really revitalizing my view of art. And that's one of the many things I believe that a new school student is. A new school student changes your your views, they inspire you. They step outside the boundaries. They are their own selves. They are more than where they come from. And so I believe I am the new school. And with that, I am ready to dive headfirst into my new life at the new school, to find new ways to push my art and to find better ways to make my friends and my community smile.
All right, so next we take you to the Youth Community Services event. The event was for Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and what YCS did was they brought a bunch of people together, and their mission was to show them the importance of volunteering and giving their service to organizations. And this event was held on January 19th, and it was an awesome event. A lot of youth were there, a lot of workshops and places you can sign up to volunteer. And I actually was there recording this event, and I got a chance to volunteer some people. So here's the clip.
MLK stands for the idea that you pursue what you feel is right despite all these hardships. You make the sacrifices to do the better in the world.
Well, I think I've really, over the last few years, through events like these, I've come to appreciate the kind of struggles that a man like MLK had to go through in order to do his life's work. And it's just made me appreciate like both the end product, but also the countless man hours of work and struggle he had to go through, him and all of his the leaders he worked with, to bring us where we are today. And I think it's our duty to honor him by continuing those services and trying to both strive to improve our community and also repay what he did for us.
What does it mean to me? MLK to me means a change in life, and it means hope, and it means that our community will come together and be happy and make a difference.
His life, I guess it means let other people to be unsegregated. Kind of broke the race barrier, which helps a lot now. Because looking at events, there's all types of people here.
It's an ongoing fight, definitely what MLK stood for. Maybe you don't see as many lynchings or anything, but as we saw with, there's stuff going on in New York, Ferguson, Eric Garner, all those cases, just people need to keep up the fight. What he was doing, we really owe it to him.
MLK's life is not just what he did or what he inspired, but it continues on. So MLK is he's began something that's like an infinite revolution. It inspired Americans and people around the world to continue, and we see that today. People say unrest, but it's the startings of a revolution, and that's something that nobody would have done without that first inspiration and his passion for what he did and the strength with which he believed in freedom.
Well, I would definitely say thank you. He probably heard it enough, but just for me to say that to him, that would mean a lot to me, because he's one of the people. When my dad was born, he only heard about him in newspapers, and then actually I'm not sure if you heard, there was this movie that came out called Selma about the march, and I don't think it would matter to him as much to know what kind of a celebrity he is today, but I think it would just warm his heart to see where we are right now.
I would shake his hand and say, you did a great job, and I only hope he is half as good as you.
If I met MLK today, I'd want him to know and kind of grasp the scale of the impact of his impact on our lives, because that's something that he never got to see. That is the most powerful part for me. Not what he did was amazing and inspirational and great and awe-inspiring, but the more amazing part is seeing what's happening today that is a direct result of what he's done. And so I'd like him to know that, and I'd like him to ask if he would want people to think of him in a different light. We think of him as an inspiration, as a trailbreaker, a trailblazer, but I would ask him if he wanted people to think of him differently.
If I met him today, I would ask him where he got most of his ideas from and how he kept on following those ideas even though they were violently attacking him. Why didn't he attack them? I'd ask him that too.
Our community needs just more people volunteering like this. Just more people coming out there, sacrificing a day or two, just to benefit the community.
I think the community is missing another figure like him because some people are forgetting about what happened during that time, and I guess we need someone else to stand up and speak for it.
It's our duty to continue, not stop, to keep going no matter what.
Here in Palo Alto, we are very obviously very fortunate, and we live in something that's often referred to as a bubble. And that bubble is that our parents, our families, and our friends are all affluent and live lives relatively free of discrimination, whether it be race or sex or gender. And that is something that when we go out into the real world, we might not know how to handle it. And that's why it's really important to be able to stand up for what you believe in within your community. Even though we may be leaders within our bubble and we may think that we may be doing huge things that on the grand scale aren't that big compared to what other people are facing, I think it's key for people in our community, especially youth, to understand just how important it is to be able to speak up for your own values and morals so that you can impact the world on a greater scale.
Before we leave, we pulled together a couple of people at the same event to read parts of Dr. Martin Luther King's speech.
I'm happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
50 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today, signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came out a great beacon of light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to the end the long night of their captivity.
But 100 years later, the Negro is still not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on in a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. So we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned.
Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. And so we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice.
So we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution of Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check that has been marked insufficient funds.
But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. And so we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice.
We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. This is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all of God's children. It will be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating autumn of freedom and equality.
1963 is not an end, but a beginning. And those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will neither be rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges.
But there is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred.
We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force.
The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. And they have come to realize that their freedom is intricately bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back.
There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating, "For whites only." We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream.
I am not unmindful that some of you have come out here from great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells. Some of you have come across from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to South Carolina. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow the situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair.
So I say to you today, my friends, that even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and little black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers.
This is our hope. This is the faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. And this will be the day. When will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, "My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true."
So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain, Georgia. Let freedom ring from the Lookout Mountains of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and every molehill of Mississippi. From every mountainside, let freedom ring.
And when this happens, when we allow freedom to ring, we will let freedom ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city. We will be able to speed up that day when all God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, thank God Almighty, we're free at last.
Well, that's all, folks. My name is Aaron. This is my co-host Sergio. And we'll see you next time. And remember, we'll see you when we see you.